Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. This is the 5th annual Ask the SQL Experts webinar hosted by your BI support team here at Fortra. Cannot believe we're in year 5 already. Now, my grandma always told me the older you get, the faster time goes, and wow, was she a smart woman. We have fantastic topics for you today, but first I want to introduce our panelists. I'm sure you have spoken to at least one, if not everybody here. We have Rich, Scott, and Jack, followed by Bob and Simone. My name is Brandy. I am the support manager here for business intelligence at Fortra. Rich is going to be working with you on timestamps. Scott will be taking you through how to use Excel as a data source for your views. And Jack's going to delve into IBM's ACS or Access Client Solutions and how to get that configured for use with Viewpoint. Bob's going to go a little bit deeper and show an advanced topic of advanced database security. And we'll wrap things up with Simone's fantastic topic on converting to repository mode. Now, you may not have seen repository mode or heard about it more than just bits and pieces over the last few years, but this is an exciting opportunity for you to kind of kick back and learn about that along with all of our other fantastic topics. I hope you enjoy. I know we love putting these together for you. I will be your moderator. We probably will not have time at the end for questions, but that does not mean we don't want to answer your questions for you. So at the end of the slideshow, end of the PowerPoint webinar, we will post our email address, phone number, and how else you can reach us to ask questions. Don't hesitate to reach out. We are support first and foremost and want to make sure that your questions are answered. So let's go ahead and get started.
Hello, thanks for that introduction. And the first topic we're starting out with today is working with timestamps. My name is Rich Galiba. I'm a support analyst for the Fortra support group working in the BI products. If you've called in for SQL or eSend or Showcase support, you might have talked to me, and happy to be here, glad to help you out. And today we're going to talk about timestamps. Timestamps are special fields, like a date field or a time field in your database. There are also timestamp fields, which combine date and time values. And timestamps could be handy for various events, tracking events, to keep track of crucial logs for audit purposes, synchronizing data between audio and video. That's used commonly in the recording industry. Timestamps are certainly for data management. You're working with dates and times in your system. You're probably going to need to sort that information chronologically, and timestamps are a good option to use for that. You'll also see timestamps in communication messages and maybe version control of software. We're commonly using timestamps for data management. So we'll focus on that as we look at timestamp functions. Timestamps can provide different levels of precision. So based on the number of seconds being displayed, the timestamp will be more precise. So looking at these four methods, we have seconds where you see a date part at the beginning, then the letter T, and then a time part. Zulu, 12:12 would be on a 24-hour clock, so that's 12 minutes after noon. When we include we include 3 decimal places for time precision, we end up with milliseconds. Microseconds contains 6 decimal points after the second. So remember, again, we're looking at year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds, and then decimal point to the right of seconds. So we have 6 digits. That's a microsecond, and you can go down the nanosecond precision. We commonly, in the IBMI world, the timestamp, the standard timestamp is to 6 positions out, so it's in microseconds. We'll trim that part, and when we work with timestamps, we'll work with the date and the time part for whole seconds and none of the microsecond calculations. This is a view result that I created for our example, and you'll notice that there are 2 time fields called time 1 and time 2. Time 1 is derived from an expression that prompts for a date part and a time part to create a timestamp. So we have a function called timestamp, and if you stick together the date and time in a proper format, you'll get a timestamp field. You'll notice the timestamp field's 26 positions long. I called it time 1. So that first row is represented by this expression. And when I created this example, I input a date of January 13th and a time of 1450. So you see that those 2 values were created and used as input for the creation of that timestamp. Now, in your database, if you have a date field and a time field, you could stick those together, obviously, the field names, to create that result. The second row, time 2, is a hard-coded value that I just passed in to create a timestamp. And you can see, again, using the timestamp function, this is the expression. I provide 20 to the year, the month, the date, the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. So it looks like an 11 o'clock on the even time. Again, a timestamp is created, 26 positions long, named time 2, and you'll see the date represented as 2025-01-04, and then the time of 11 o'clock. So those are our timestamp fields getting created using the timestamp function. In Viewpoint, there is a timestamp function that you can reference in the help text for additional information. Now, the next line is the result of what happens when we subtract one timestamp from another timestamp. So looking at time diff, you'll see that the result of the difference between these 2 timestamps is 9 days, 3 hours, 50 minutes, and 0 seconds. Now, that's nicely parsed out and masked because I created this edit code at the bottom. You'll notice the hashtags. Those represent digits. So the first 4 digits are the number of years. The next 2 are the number of months. The next 2, number of days. Then goes on to hours, minutes, and seconds. I inserted that text to format that result. So when you subtract one timestamp from another timestamp, you end up with a result that's in years, months, days, hours, minutes, seconds. Similar to when you subtract one date field from another date field, you'll get the difference in years, months, and days. Also with timestamps, they're handy to, we make it easy to create what are called duration functions. So more importantly than displaying or subtracting one timestamp from another, you may need to know how many hours difference there are between the 2 values, or the number of days or the number of weeks. And that's what this duration function does. You can see the syntax where we specify duration, the unit of measure that we want to see, and then the 2 timestamps that we want to compare, the start and the end. So by taking duration of hours between timestamp 2 and timestamp 1, we get that there's a 219-hour difference between those 2 timestamps. If we look at the number of days, it's a 9-day difference. And of course, the precision changes, right, as we go to larger increments of time. Here, when we're looking at week, it's 1 week difference. Even though it might be, 1 week and 4 days, you're still going to come up with 1 week. That's why precision might matter. And you'll notice the precision can go down to seconds and microseconds. So those microseconds that we talked about, you can measure in that precision with the duration function. So looking at the difference between 2 timestamps, which is commonly done, when did something start, when did it end, when did someone check in, when did they leave, when did the truck leave the dock, when did it arrive, always looking at the difference in time based on some level of precision. And then finally, we can use a date function against the timestamp. So using the function date against time one extracts just the date part of that timestamp, and then we're back to working with a full date without timestamps. You'll notice the type code assigned for the results field as a date field. There are other keywords that can be used to extract a part of a timestamp. We have the month, day, day of week, and you can see the others, quarter and week. So that concludes my discussion about timestamps. I'm going to pass it off now to the next presenter. Thanks for your time. And if you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to give us a call at support. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that fantastic information, Rich. Really appreciate all of the great detail that you put in, showing the power of the timestamp functions. Right. Now, up next, we have Scott with an equally as exciting and powerful feature for Viewpoint, using Excel as a data source.
And today, I would like to talk to you about using Excel as a database within SQL and SQL Viewpoint. The example I'm going to utilize will show Excel as a data source. You can also use the ACS file transfer utility to create a physical file, but that would not allow for dynamic data. So this example here, we're going to start off with, I have a spreadsheet that resides on my PC. I am going to utilize Access Client Solutions to upload that information into the IFS. As you see here, I have Access Client Solutions up. I have a folder here called SQ Test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select to upload from my desktop the new ref XLSX spreadsheet. And you see here, it is uploaded into the IFS at this point. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the IBMI, and I'm going to set it up as a server data source, adding SQL to my library list. And it's already been added. So what I'm going to utilize is the maintain host command, file command. And now you see SQL host maintenance. Now we have an example here for Excel that we can copy from. And from time constraints here, what I'm going to do is show you that I've already created the server entry. You notice here that it does not require a user ID or a password on the IBMI. You also see that I've used the defaults, which is the Excel driver. And on a connection standpoint, I'm connecting it to the SQ test, IFS, and then the new ref XLSX. So I've specified all this information here, pressing enter to continue. And it does, in fact, show my entry out there. You can verify the connection of this by using the SQL connect command and allowing yourself to verify the connection. See that you have a good connection. So my next step here will be to utilize SQL Viewpoint, and I have SQL Viewpoint up and running. I will point out to you also, I'm doing all this through the IBM but you can grab your Excel spreadsheet from a remote server. It will require the use of IBM's QNTC application. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a brand new view. Before I get started here, I'm going to utilize properties. And I'm going to look for that particular database. Now, it's found at the bottom of the databases. I do want to point that out to you. First time going through, it's not going to be in alphabetical order. Specifying it as a server. Clicking OK here. And then from a database standpoint, you see under schema, it's set to all. You have a little folder tab here. Double clicking on this. This brings up a sheet that I double click. And as you see here, picking up our new ref file data. We do a display on this. Here's a display of the data. This is within Viewpoint. And you notice here, here's the spreadsheet data. So from this easy process, as you see, it was just a couple little steps along the way. We are able to utilize Excel as a data source to continue working with inside of Viewpoint. Thank you for your time today.
Great information there, Scott. Thank you so much. You know, using Excel as a data source is actually one of my more favorite additions we've made to the product in recent years. It's been a while, but it's still kind of a newer feature. And I think it's just one of those that is super beneficial for everyone, but hasn't gotten a lot of attention. So really appreciate you calling that out. Our next presenter is Jack, and he has got some great information for us for using IBM's ACS.
Hi, this is Jack Holmstrom, and today I'll be discussing configuring IBM's ACS for Viewpoint. So now, two very common errors we see when we have users first setting up their Viewpoint application are these ones on the right. The smaller one, no systems configured, is what I'll be mainly discussing today and walking you through. And this larger one on the right means that we do not have the Windows application package installed. If you get this error message when you're first trying to access Viewpoint, simply go to IBM's webpage, go to the same page where you downloaded ACS, and there should be an option to download Access Client Solution Windows Application Package 64-bit English. That's what we want to download. Once that is downloaded, then we can properly set up our connection and continue with this process. So how do we configure a system? We're going to open our ACS. We're going to go to System Configurations. That's this green arrow on this left image here. And from there, we're going to enter the name of our system, name, nickname, server name, IP address, whatever it may be. We're going to enter it right there. We can then enter an optional description of the server or the system. We can go ahead and verify the connection. We can check for green check marks to make sure that that connection to said system is working. And then we can go ahead and click OK. Now, sometimes we might want to use SSL for a more secure connection to our system here. With SSL, we need client access certificates for sign-on server, database server, remote command, central server, data queue server, and DDM/DRDA server. Now, once we have the certificates, we can go through the same process. And when we do our verify connection check, we'll want to make sure we have all green check marks, except for the network file and print along with telnet. Those will be near the bottom of our verification check, and those will be red X's rather than green check marks. If you get those, that's okay. Your connection will still work and SSL will still be successful. Now, once we have set up our server or our system name, We then have to copy it over for it to be accessible in Viewpoint. To do this, we go back to the home page of ACS. In the top left corner, we select File, Copy Connections, and there our server or system name will be on the left-hand side of the screen in this left box. So here in this example, you can see system name. We're going to select that, select the right arrow to bring it over into our IBMI Access windows on the right. And once it's over there, we can go ahead and close. After moving our system name from the left to the right, it should be accessible via Viewpoint, and we shouldn't see either of the two errors from the beginning of our slides here. And now you should be able to access them in Viewpoint. Thank you.
Excellent information. Thank you, Jack. That is really important for all of our Viewpoint users to know, or all of those users that are currently on what we call green screen SQL that may be looking forward to moving to Viewpoint. And just keep in mind that Access Client Solutions is an IBM offered product, but we do use it behind the scenes for the communication layer, which is why we wanted to cover it here. This is Jack's first time doing an Ask the Experts, and I think he did a great job. I'm sure you guys agree. All right, so Bob is up next with another super important topic, advanced database security. You may be familiar with that from one of my last webinars last year, touched on that as part of the Viewpoint Administrator, but Bob's going to do a great job, I just know it, diving strictly into just this one topic. Here we go.
Good day, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about advanced database security. I'm Bob Klaprick with the SQL support team, and today we're going to be talking about ADS, or Advanced Database Security. What exactly is that? Well, that's a SQL proprietary security layer that's we can apply to rows, columns, files, and library security. Think of it as data security. It's over the top of IBMI native security, so we're enhancing IBMI security. There are two advantages to this. First of all, the security rules apply to SQL only. So we can make rules for SQL users that don't apply to anybody else on the system. The other thing that it does is it's Windows-based, so it's a lot easier to use and administer compared to regular command line interface. There are really three steps to enable advanced database security. First of all, we need to create a new host connection using the SQL JDBC driver on the IBMI. A lot of times we refer to this as the Viewpoint Universal Driver because we use it for other things like JD Edwards integration. The next thing we need to do is create security rules that apply to users and objects. We need to tie all that together. And the third thing we need to do is change the user defaults so that those security rules are applied to users. So the first thing we need to do is define the host connection, and to do that, you can do that one of two ways. You can go to a command line, use the maintain host file command, or you can use the Viewpoint Administrator. But really, the first thing we need to do is copy the jt400.jar object into the real lib directory, the SQL directory. This is defined in the Viewpoint user guide in the appendix. So don't get too hung up on these steps. It's all defined in our documentation. Here's what that host connection is going to look like from the Viewpoint Administrator. Again, I'm naming it ADS demo just for our benefit here. The nice thing about using the Viewpoint Administrator is that little button down at the bottom, Test Connection. And here, in this case, I'm able to verify that the connection is successful, that I did everything right. So you can do the same thing from a command line, it's just a little harder. All right, the next thing we need to do is set up security rules. And to do that, we need to go back into the Viewpoint Administrator and go to Advanced Database Security. Once you open this screen, there are several tabs. The tab that I'm on right now is called Server Options. A lot of times we refer to this as big switches because these options apply to all users. So for example, we can exclude all libraries by default for all users, and then we could be specific and grant back certain options for specific users, or we can just let all users see all libraries by default. Same thing with all files. We can apply security to supplemental groups, for example, and also we can restrict all object profiles. So if you have a lot of all object profiles on your system, you can exclude those, or you can either exclude those or include those in the security rules. Once you've done that, we need to go back to the Select by Object tab. And what this allows you to do is go in and there are no rules by default. So there's nothing in here. And what I've done is I've gone in, searched for the file customast, and I've created a couple rules. I've created a read rule and an exclude rule. And you can see that I've checked the box for public on the read rule. And then if you go towards on the bottom of the screen here, you can see that there's the exclude rule applies to two users, Bob K user 1 and Bob K user 2. So you can pick and choose whatever you want there. Once you do that, you can go to the select by user, and now you can modify the rules based on a specific user. So it makes it really easy. Once you get this up and running, it makes it really easy to turn on and off rules as you need to. All right, once you do that, then you need to force the users to use advanced database security. And to do that, you need to go back into the Viewpoint Administrator and go to Set Defaults. Here we've got a couple of different options. One is we need to set the default database to the advanced database security database connection. The default syntax is going to be server syntax. And over on the right, you can see that the object authority checking is *ADS. And what that does is that turns off all other IBMI data options. So SQL, local sys, local options are disabled. That does not disable non-IBMI data sources such as SQL Server or Oracle. Those are still there. The only thing is the only thing it disables is local sys and SQL options. So that forces users to go through advanced database security, and they can't get around it. All right, thank you for watching, and I hope that's helpful.
Great topic, Bob. Excellent choice. Thank you for pulling that out and sharing it with everybody here. All right, our last topic for today is from Simone. You probably have worked with her in the past through support or maybe even one of our services projects. She's going to be covering what it takes to convert SQL and Viewpoint to our repository mode.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Simone Clark, and today I will discuss converting to the repository. When saving your object to the repository, you have two options. From host mode, using the Viewpoint Explorer, you can create a SQL or Showcase 10 object and save to the repository with the default library of SQL repo. From Viewpoint repository mode, which must be enabled first, you will also create your object and save to a folder on the repository. In order to utilize the repository option, you must configure a unified server, specifically the SQL Web Server instance or SWIS. This will enable the Windows folder and file-like structure, and it will allow you to have object and library names longer than the 10 characters. To turn on or enable repository mode via Viewpoint, you will navigate to Tools, Viewpoint Options, enter the URL that points to your unified server, check the box for repository mode, and restart Viewpoint. Additional configuration is required. Please see our SWI guide for additional information. For our green screen enthusiasts, we have a command that converts your host objects to the repository. You can convert a single object or an entire library. You will need to specify the object attribute. Dashboards are not supported with this conversion command. Additional attributes of this command are specify the directory path that you would like to save your objects. In my example below, I am saving my objects to the S. Clark folder on the repository. If you would like to utilize a longer naming convention, you will specify yes for the object text type. While in host mode of Viewpoint via the designer, in the file drop-down menu, there is a Save to Repository option. This will not appear when you are actually in Viewpoint repository mode, as we will see on the next few slides. Our save parameters are the default library, SQL repo. The look-in option points to the repository. You will save your object with a longer file name, and you will accept the default save type. When in repository mode of Viewpoint, the file drop-down menu has a Save As option. Our save parameters are the same. SQL repo is the default library. Look-in is the folder on the IFS or the repository. The IFS object in the repository is a shortcut that points to the user space object. Again, you can have an object longer than 10 with a name longer than 10 characters, and you will save using the default type. And now it's time for a live demo. Here we have our conversion command. I am going to convert the object cust list from the library SQL EX. My object attribute is a view. The path that I wish to save the object, and yes, to utilize a longer descriptive name for my object. The object was converted successfully. Now let's go back and verify the object was saved in the correct location. Scroll down, and here we have the host object that we converted to the repository. All right, next we will switch over to Viewpoint repository mode. Repository mode, as you can see, it has the repositories on the left-hand pane where you would usually see your iSeries. And on the right, you have the name of your objects and the object types. Looks a little different from host mode. We can also verify that we are in repository mode by going to Tools, Viewpoint Options. And as you can see here, we have the repository mode option checked and the URL that points to the Unify server. Now I'm going to save an object to the repository. So we're going to do File, Save As, which defaults to the repository because you're already in the repository mode. SQL repo, repository. Navigate to my folder here. Scroll all the way down. There we are. Okay. You want to give it a name, a more longer descriptive name. Yeah, we're going to save. And we have our save verification here. Say OK. Close this. And now we can navigate to my folder in the repository. Excellent. And do a refresh. And here we have my object. Double click to display. I'm sure it's going to open on the other screen. Yeah, it did. Sorry about that. Here you are. Here are the results of the object that I saved to the repository. Now we're going to switch over to host mode. So we navigate back to Tools, Viewpoint Options, uncheck the repository option, say OK, and we're going to restart Viewpoint. And here we are in Viewpoint host mode, and we have filtered to today's date. And here we have the object that we saved earlier. And we're going to double click and run the results. And then we're going to open a mail to monitor. Just bear with me. And here we are, the results of our user space object in the library SQL repo. That concludes my demo for today. I hope it was helpful. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
I know that both Simone and I are in agreement that repository mode is absolutely fantastic and is the way to go, especially if you've got new users or new system admins that may not be as familiar with the IBMI platform and the naming conventions and rules. The repository mode allows a lot more flexibility just with the names of the objects themselves. It's not the only benefit it brings, but it's a big one. So thank you, Simone. Appreciate you bringing that up. Great idea for a topic for our 5th edition here of Ask the Experts. Great, so we have heard from everybody. We've heard from Rich and Scott and Jack and Simone and Bob. Just wanted to take just a moment to thank them all. I'm sure you've spoken to at least one, if not all of them, throughout your years with the product. Fantastic support team. They make it really easy to be their manager, let me tell you. So if you're looking for more information, where can you learn some more? Well, we've got some fantastic online help, both in green screen SQL. You can just do an F1 on any command or on any parameter, just like is built in, throughout the platform itself. Or if you're in Viewpoint, we have a help menu, and it will get you to some specific information about exactly what you're doing. Or if you want to just poke around, you can do that as well. The user guides are published on the Fortress Support portal, just like the knowledge base. We have a ton of different knowledge articles that cover some error message debugging, but mostly it's how-tos. So don't hesitate. Take a look around the Fortress Support portal, or FSP. You do need to log in order to access the user guides. You don't for the knowledge base, but it's also where you'll want to go for product downloads to check product compatibility with different operating systems and so on. If you're looking for something a little more structured, we do offer live instructor-led courses. Both Rich and Jackie actually are the main instructors for our SQL and Showcase products. Several different topics. We've got everything from Viewpoint Level 1 getting started, which is the beginning with what an object is, what files and libraries are, all the way through, our Viewpoint Beyond the Basics, which will get into union clauses and date variables and so on. But if you're looking for more specific training, maybe on just scripts or dashboards, advanced variables, we do offer those single topic classes as well. But keep in mind too that we do have some mentoring available that we'd be happy to help with. So from all of us here in BI support at Fortra, thank you so much for joining. We truly appreciate you not only being a customer of our SQL product here at Fortra, but also for taking the time today to be with us. Reach out if you have any questions. We are always very happy to help.